Hello and welcome to Money Matters. I am Adeshewa Odushoga. Nigerians woke up to heartbreaking news on the postponement of the Presidential and National Assembly elections, which was earlier scheduled to hold on the 16th of February 2019. Barely 6 hours to the commencement of the electoral process, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) announced that the presidential elections would no longer hold, citing some logistic reasons behind the postponement. The INEC chairman Mahmoud Yakubu has since apologized to Nigerians for this impromptu development, bearing blames and responsibility.
I want to appeal to Nigerians and all other stakeholders for their understanding in what has been a very difficult decision for the Commission. Our decision is entirely taken by the Commission. It has nothing to do with security, nothing to do with political influence, nothing to do with availability of resources. We believe that ultimately this decision is good for our democracy and for our country. I wish to assure you of our commitment to free, fair, and credible elections. As chairman of INEC, and on behalf of the Commission, we take full responsibility for what happened, and we regret any inconvenience our decision might have caused.
This decision by the electoral body did not go down well with many Nigerians. Over time, election periods usually hold business transactions to a halt in order to allow citizens to perform their civil responsibility for a period of time. However, the postponement has hindered business across the country, and many business owners have been lamenting.
What are they doing? We have been preparing for this election for how many months now? Why do you just 12 hours to the time, or 14 hours to this time, they cancel it? Look at business paralyzed now, because some people are at home. Some people think that the election is still going to hold. They are at home. There is no business going on today.
Honestly, I'm not happy. And the INEC chairman, he announced very late. He will have announced the postponement of the election at least 2 days to the date of election. A lot of people, they've traveled home for them to go and cast their votes. But unfortunately, he announced the postponement of the election to 30-something PM, which is bad. So I'm not really happy. And we, the marketers, we are supposed to be in our market to sell our goods. We couldn't come to the market. So I'm not happy.
I am not happy with the postponement of the election. I had already taken my bath and I was going out. Then I heard the election has been postponed. Even after the news, we all came to the markets to open our stores, but everywhere was deserted. There was no one to buy from us. It affected our business seriously. Some of us had to travel very far to our villages to vote. Now I doubt if I can go back again, because there is no money to do so.
On a larger note, the Nigerian Stock Exchange has also reacted negatively to the election postponement, losing a total sum of 196 billion naira. Specifically, the market capitalization shared 196 billion naira to close at 12 trillion naira against 12.200 trillion naira on Friday due to the postponement. On the other side, the Nigeria's foreign exchange reserves has fallen to $42.86 billion. This is the lowest level in 2 months. This data is according to the Central Bank of Nigeria. It says the reserves, which stood at $43.174 billion on January 31st, dropped by $314 million in 2 weeks to $42.86 billion on February 14. And this is just 2 days to the elections. Now, it's okay to say the external reserves is experiencing a high drop rate in many months as the elections draws nearer. Now, to discuss this havoc this one-day election postponement has done to the Nigerian economy, I have financial expert Muda Yusuf. He's the Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Yeah, thank you.
So, the Nigerians woke up to this bombshell news that the election has just been postponed. And this is coming just barely 6 hours to the commencement of the electoral activities. What do you make of the election postponement? And what is the effect on the Nigerian economy?
The postponement came as a very rude shock to all Nigerians. It disrupted a lot of things. It disrupted a lot of plans. It disrupted, caused serious disruptions in the economy. First, we had a partial shutdown of the economy a day before the election, because practically all economic activities in the Nigerian economy are slowed down considerably. We had situations where our ports were shut down. Many offices closed down by midday or shortly after midday on the day before the elections. A lot of travels took place. Many people were traveling from one part of the country to the other. Then on the day of the election proper, there was a total shutdown of the economy. The borders were closed. There was no movement. Movement was restricted and all of that. So there was a total shutdown. All economic activities came to a halt. And by our own estimation, if you take into account the effects on the economy shortly before the date that the election was supposed to take place, and on the very day that the election was supposed to take place, our estimation is that the economy has lost an estimated $1.5 billion US. So it's quite horrendous. Investors suffered losses, individuals suffered losses, SMEs, large enterprises, the political parties, and even the government. So it was a huge cost to virtually everybody across sectors and across the length and breadth of this country.
Began to give predictions that Nigeria must have lost about 19 billion naira just for this one-day postponement of the election. How true is this?
Well, our estimation is that the economy as a whole, based on some estimation, based on some adjustment that we did to our national income data, our estimation is that the economy has lost about 1.5 billion US. If we take everything together, what happened before the election, what happened after the election, and the fact that between now and the new date of the election, the economy will be struggling to recover. There's still a big lull in the economy because we still have the election ahead of us. So the impact has been quite enormous based on these considerations.
The Nigerian Stock Exchange have also been reacting negatively to this effect. It says it lost about 196 billion naira just because of the postponement of the election. How do you think it could recover even after election?
Well, if at the end of the day, we pray that all this sacrifice will not be in vain. If at the end of the day we're able to have an election that is credible, that is fair, I'm sure that confidence will begin to return, both to the larger economy and even to the stock market. So if we're able to get it right and we have a restoration of confidence, then it will be possible for the markets and the economy itself to begin to recover. So what we are hoping for is that at the end of the day we have an outcome that is credible, that inspires confidence. Because investment is about expectations, it's about confidence. If we're able to come up with an outcome that inspires confidence, then the economy will surely will have a rebound, whether in the capital market, stock market, or in the larger economy.
Can we say the election is a factor? Because we have some businesses during the elections, some side businesses like the petty traders were affected because some of them have plans to sell to voters at the polling unit. And they say, according to them, they've been lamenting that some of them had to borrow to set up a capital, to set up this little business and just make sales during the elections. And now the election has been shifted by 1 week. And some of these things are edible products which might be at the loss of getting spoiled before the scheduled dates for the new elections. Now, what do you make of these people?
No, can you come again, Abiba?
I said some petty traders are expected to be affected by this new development. Some people are arguing that the initial election date, they had plans to sell to potential voters on the election day, and now the election has been shifted, and there are uncertainties that the election might as well be shifted again against the scheduled dates.
Well, it is part of the totality of the losses that we talk about. When we say that an estimated $1.5 billion worth of loss has been incurred by the economy, it covers all levels of business, including those that you have just referred to. It covers both the micro enterprises, the small businesses, the large enterprises, the medium enterprises, the foreign investors, the domestic investors. So it's an inclusive estimation. And the effect is also across all levels of business. So these petty traders and micro enterprises that you said wanted to make some sales on the day of the election, of course, they are part of the victims or casualties, or economic casualties, if you like, of the postponement of the election.
What do you make of the decision by the independent petroleum marketers to slash the price of petrol and some airlines slashing airfares to motivate voters to travel to vote? Some people have complained that they had traveled down to the country to vote earlier and they are discouraged. What do you make of this development?
Well, I don't think that is a significant development. Symbolically, it is good at the level of symbolism that the oil marketers are dropping prices, airlines are giving some assurance to passengers or prospective passengers. But in terms of the materiality of it, I don't think it's something that is significant. But symbolically, it is okay. Because for oil marketers, I don't know how you want to monitor compliance. I don't know how you want to ensure that all the marketers sell at that price. And I'm also worried that it may even create confusion, because not all the marketers are members of the Independent Marketers Association. So, well, let's just say that symbolically it is good, but it's not something significant that worth any serious attention.
Now, the Nigerian Foreign Reserve has also reacted negatively to this development. I mean, the reserves fell from $42.86 billion just within the periods of election, and the difference is about $314 million. I mean, the reserve was at $43.174 billion earlier. That's on January 31st, and it dropped by $42.86 billion around February 14, and this is just coming 2 days to the election. Could we say that the election is a factor responsible for this fall?
No, I don't think so. Generally, the election has had some macroeconomic level effects even before the postponement. Because what we have found is that generally during periods of elections, there are issues with confidence, there are issues with regard to uncertainty in the economy, and all these things have a way of slowing down economic activities. It has a way of impacting negatively on investors' confidence. So generally, that has been the context in which investors behave. So that is why most times when you are in election season, there is always a downturn in the level of economic activities. The drop in foreign reserves is not particularly significant. It's actually less than 1%. So it's not something, at least for now, that you can really strongly attribute to the postponement of the election. It's part of the general context of impact that the election season brings to bear on the economy.
So now what do we expect? What should be our post-election predictions? What do we expect after elections? These businesses that have been affected by the postponement, how do you think they can come back to normal? How do you think they can bounce back to what it used to be before? What should we expect after elections?
No, as long as the elections are credible, as long as we don't have any disturbances, as long as we don't have violence or security problems after the elections, it will not be difficult for the economy to bounce back. This is a very vibrant economy. We are blessed with a lot of entrepreneurs who are driving the investment processes across all levels of the economy. As long as there is no disturbances, as long as there is confidence in the outcome of the elections, the economy will surely bounce back, and bounce back in a very big way.
So how would you assess the present government now? Now it's under the verge of a likely handover to another new government. So how would you assess their economic performance in the last 3 to 4 years?
Well, the economy has been fairly okay. Of course, there are challenges. At the macroeconomic level, we have seen some stability in our key macro indicators, like our exchange rates has been relatively stable. The foreign reserves too is in a fairly good condition. Inflation rate is dropping. Our GDP performance has, is back on a positive threshold or trajectory. So at the macroeconomic level, a lot of things are looking positive. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to make the economy more inclusive, and I think the government is trying its best to make that happen. We have seen initiatives around the ease of doing business, initiative by government. We have the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council that is led by the Vice President. We have been having consultations between the private sector and the government under the leadership of the Vice President at the dialogue session. So there has been a lot of engagement with the private sector. There has been some impact on ease of doing business. We have seen some effects on infrastructure, on roads, on railways, and so on. So some progress has been made, but a lot more needs to be done to make the environment more investment friendly. We are looking forward to reform of the oil and gas sector so that the huge potentials in that sector can be unleashed, so that more revenue will be created, more jobs will be created, and we have more savings in terms of our foreign exchange. Because right now, the amount we are spending importing petroleum products is very high, and it's making some of us very uncomfortable. So these are some of the issues that also needs to be dealt with immediately after the election, and immediately we have whichever party wins during the election. These are some of the issues that need to be quickly
Talking of ease of doing
addressed.
business, the manufacturers of some smartphones like Samsung, Nokia, Tecno recently has said that they find it difficult to set up their company in Nigeria, like the manufacturing company in Nigeria, citing the problem of ease of doing business as one of the challenges. What do you think?
Well, the ease of doing business program is work in progress. We have major issues, for instance, with infrastructure. We have issues with funding. We have issues with some regulatory institutions and government bureaucracy. So the government has been doing its best to deal with these issues. Some of these problems are not problems that you can fix within the short time. For instance, if you are talking about fixing power or fixing the roads or fixing the rail system, these things take time. They are not things that you fix very quickly, and you need resources to fix them. For most part of the last few years, the resources are actually not there. to do a lot or to have a lot of impact in terms of fixing our infrastructures. But some progress has been made, and just as I said, these things are work in progress. We have been seeing some improvements in the area of road infrastructure, for instance. There have been some investment in railway system. We haven't made much progress in the area of power, and not much progress has been made in the area of bringing down the cost of funds in the economy. So some progress has been made, and there's quite a lot more that needs to be done to improve on the ease of doing business. But we must acknowledge that government has done some work in this area. So
how do you think the new government should improve in the economy? What do you think what do you think this present economy lack? And how do you think the new government can improve on it based on the Nigerian economy? Like, is there a place where they've not done enough and you're seeking that the new government should work more on?
Come again?
I said, this present government, is there a place, is there a way in the economy where they've not done better in the economy? You're advising the incoming government to focus more on when talking about maybe the backlashes in the economy. Where do you think the present government has not done well enough?
Well, first of all, we are not sure which government will come on board. It could be the present government. It could be a member of the opposition parties. But whichever government comes on board, we want to see an acceleration in the area of oil and gas sector reform. The PIB has been in and out of the National Assembly over the past 13 to 15 years. Unfortunately, in this assembly, some steps were taken, but again, from all indications, the bill will not see the light of day by the end of this administration. So we expect that there should be some acceleration of the process of ensuring that you have a PIB so that the oil and gas sector reform can be better driven. We also would like to see, from whichever government comes to power, a more radical approach to the issue of the power sector. The power sector has been one of the biggest challenges for this economy and for most investors. Energy cost is still very high, and it's one of the things that are making the business environment and many enterprises in this economy to be very uncompetitive. So we want to see a more radical approach to the issue of power so that we can deliver power to investors and to the citizens. We also need to get the banking system to be better connected with entrepreneurs, to be better connected with the real economy. Right now, there's a major issue with financial intermediation. The banks are not supporting investors enough. I would like to see also an acceleration of reforms to ensure that the bank play the kind of role it should play within the context of financial intermediation so that the economy can be better funded by the banking system. So these are some of the areas I think we need to look at very urgently under a new administration.
Okay, thank you very much, Muda Yusuf, for joining us on the program. And we hope that the new date for the election is not postponed again.
Thank you.
It has been an interactive session with our guest on the program. Our fingers remain crossed to see how the scheduled election will turn out, and maybe this time it will not be postponed again. We also do hope that Nigeria is able to recover fast from this loss. Well, we've come to the end of today's edition. To watch us again, it's simple. We are live on Facebook at TV360 Online. Follow us on our Instagram and Twitter handles at TV360 Nigeria. You should also subscribe to our YouTube channel at TV360 Nigeria. Thank you very much for watching. I am Adesha Shoga. Bye for now.